We shift our focus to this now. The Mpumalanga Legislature recently heard a motion to change the name of the Kruger National Park to Skukuza National Park, but Skukuza was actually the nickname given to James Stevenson-Hamilton, the park's earliest head ranger. Hamilton was largely responsible for evictions of both white farmers, mining entrepreneurs and indigenous populations from the area. Tourism and travel writer Sibusiso Mkhwanazi joins us now to talk more about what this name now means. Sibusiso, thank you so much for your time this evening here on SABC News. I mean, let's start off here. Firstly, we've seen this being proposed in the legislature in Mpumalanga to have the names changed from Kruger National Park to Skukuza. Firstly, maybe let's start off with your reaction. How do you react to this proposed name change?
Good evening and good evening to all viewers. I think the best way that we can look at this, right, is a rose by any other name still smell as sweet, right?
All right, I'm just going to cut you there for a moment, if you don't mind. Could you please just speak a bit more closer to your PC? We are battling there to pick up your mic.
Okay, hopefully this is better.
Much better.
Okay, yeah. I was basically saying that the Kruger National Park being changed, and remember, this is a proposal. It has not been passed into law, right? There are certain processes that we need to go through for this name change to be effective. So a lot of people, of course, in South Africa and outside of South Africa, we know the Kruger National Park. In 2024, we had about 1.5 million visitors that went to the Kruger National Park, and about 20% of those were international visitors. So I think a lot of people are being really emotional about this, and it's completely understandable. You know, when you think of the history of the Kruger National Park and the person who started it, right? It's not easy to say as South Africans that in 1898 we're just going to forget that Paul Kruger started this and the history that we have as a nation. At the same time, this is never going to be right or a wrong perspective. It is a question of what is best for the Kruger National Park. So are we trying to make sure that we have more visitors, whether they are South African or they are international visitors? You know, we are trying to make sure that more visitors come. Changing the name, does that mean that we are going to have more or less visitors? I think that is what we need to debate. This is an incredibly important landmark in terms of tourism in South Africa, right? So 20% of visitors being international tourists means 80% are actually South Africans. So we should then look at what South Africans want for the Kruger National Park. But like I said, it's not going to be a wrong or a right. It's what's best for the Kruger National Park.
All right. And I mean, this conversation is being brought up during Heritage Month, and a number of people, of course, like you say, others, it has received mixed emotions because, others have, they've been really concerned about the name change when it comes to the tourism side of things. But should we see a name change when it comes to Kruger National Park, when we talk about the country's past and painful past, and those who are actually involved in the apartheid era of South Africa? Is a name change necessary when you talk of the heritage of South Africa and it being inclusive to all? But at the same time, I want to park the name Skukuza as well while you answer that.
Yeah. So I think of it this way, right? Because they are relatively new developments. If we think back to Jan Smuts International Airport, I am old enough to know that it used to be called Jan Smuts International Airport. It is now called OR Tambo International Airport. The question is, when that renaming happened, did we lose any visitors to South Africa? Did the airport have less people using it? And the answer is no. When you look at the facts, when you look at the numbers, it did not affect. So if we are going to move from Kruger National Park to Skukuza National Park, we need to be factual about it. What is it going to do to tourism, local and international? Of course, like you were saying, really have a difficult past as South Africans. So as a black South African, Kruger National Park might evoke some emotions of around apartheid and all the things that I couldn't do, that my parents and all our forefathers could not do. But if we move it to Skukuza, we also need to find out what's the history behind Skukuza, the meaning of it. Some of it that I've seen is not so positive around Skukuza, so we need to be careful of that. But the biggest thing, I go back to this, what is best for the Kruger National Park? Renaming or not renaming, we need to make sure that we are doing what is best. And for the Kruger National Park, what's the number of tourists that go in, locally and internationally? A lot of money is spent at the Kruger National Park by South Africans on a yearly basis. International guests also stay there, from those 5-star accommodations to right at the bottom. We all spend hundreds of thousands of rands, sometimes even millions a year, at the park. So we need to do what is best. Skukuza, is it the right name? I don't know. I think, it's never going to be a right name.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's a conversation that we need to have.
All right, Sibusiso, I would have loved to talk a bit more with you, but unfortunately we are battling with your line. I'm unfortunately going to have to cut our conversation a bit short, but thank you so much for your contributions tonight. That's Sibusiso Mkhwanazi. He is a tourism and travel writer there, also talking about the proposals to change the name Kruger National Park to Skukuza National Park.